All hands on deck today. Sam Yarnell will be here. We'll talk about the NBA, NFL, baseball, more, everything with him. Good to have him back on the show. Dennis Bernstein will be here from thefourthperiod.com and SiriusXM NHL Radio. Get some thoughts with him on the conference finals, Stanley Cup playoffs. All of that and a whole bunch more, but we have a lot to get to begin things today, and as we always do, we do it with the big story. And the big story today begins in the NBA. It wasn't as thrilling as Game 1, but it was still a knockdown, drag-out affair. Lots of punches being thrown between the Spurs and the Thunder, figuratively speaking. It is the Thunder that get the win, though, and they even that series up at 1 game apiece in what was a must-win for them. They had to get this game on Wednesday night, and they did. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander was better. The Thunder as a whole were better. We thought we'd see less of Isaiah Hartenstein. We saw more of him, and boy, did Victor Wembanyama see plenty of him because he was being held up by him all night. I mean, the officiating in this game, as it related to the way Hartenstein was defending Wemby, was horrible. He was getting dragged around and held by the jersey and held back all night. But with all that being said, losing Dylan Harper in this game, no De'Aaron Fox because of the sprained ankle. Hopefully they have him back for Game 3. Dylan Harper, the hamstring injury, that is going to be worth watching. I don't know if people realize how valuable he is to this team. His ability not just to get to the basket, but finish at the basket. We'll see what happens there. But now you have a series that's, a best of 5. And the Spurs have home court advantage for that best of 5. And I still think San Antonio wins this series. I really do. I thought they'd win before the series started. I think they win through the first 2 games of this series. Watch the way Oklahoma City lands knockout blow after knockout blow against so many teams in this league. The one team they cannot put away is the Spurs. Even on a night where the Spurs struggled at times, they always came back in this game. I can't wait to see that Game 3 atmosphere on Friday night out in San Antonio, and what is going to be I hope, a 7-game thriller all the way. Big story number 1. But again, keep an eye on the Dylan Harper story. That's going to be worth watching here over the next 36 hours or so. What is his status, not just for Game 3, but maybe the rest of the series, potentially the rest of the postseason when you're talking about a hamstring injury. It depends on what grade of hamstring injury we're looking at here. Big story number 2. Aaron Rodgers is coming back for 1 more year. And I can't for the life of me. And I talked about this yesterday in a SportsWrap short on this. If you're not already doing so, follow us on YouTube for SportsWrap shorts. I can't for the life of me figure out, now that Aaron Rodgers has made it official, this is his final year in the NFL. You've got 1 year left to play. You want to go all in. You're a guy with 1 ring. Brad Johnson has 1 ring. Sam Darnold has as many rings as you do. Trent Dilfer has as many rings as you do. I could keep going. And you're going to play that last season in Pittsburgh with a team that's not projected to win a lot of football games this year in one of the toughest divisions, if not the toughest division in all of the NFL, one of the most competitive for sure. You've got 1 crack left, and you're Aaron Rodgers, and this is it? Doesn't make sense to me. And I'll say it again from the Steelers' perspective, it makes no sense to me why the Pittsburgh Steelers went this route this year. You got the kid from Ohio State. You've got young quarterbacks. You got Drew Aller. You've got quarterbacks here. Will Howard was the name that escaped me. Why on earth you are making the decision to go through another year of mediocrity, waste another year of TJ Watt? Are you placating the fan base with this? You're giving Aaron Rodgers his farewell tour. You're able to say you're the last team he played for. None of it makes sense to me. if I'm a Steelers fan. Love you guys watching over on Sportsnet. Pittsburgh, home of the Pirates and the Penguins. Look, good luck. I'm not rooting against Aaron Rodgers. I'm not rooting against the Steelers here. I'm just so loathsome of franchises that refuse to rebuild when you know, all of us watching at home know that it's time for the Steelers to start the rebuild. And they're going to put it off for another year. For what? Aaron Rodgers' ego? What, so he can win 8 games, 9 games, maybe 10 if everything breaks right? I don't get it. Best of luck, though. You'll see a whole lot of that this season. Big story number 3. This one broke just before we started putting the show together. And who knows, by the time you see the show, wherever you may be watching, there may be more information on this. Here is what we know right now. TMZ, the first to report that NASCAR's own Kyle Busch, one of the great drivers in all of this sport, Kyle Busch has been hospitalized with some sort of serious illness. We don't know what it is. His family is asking for privacy. I do the show. I'm based here in Vegas. He is a Las Vegas guy. So we're obviously pulling for Kyle Busch. But the story is he's in the hospital. It is serious. It doesn't sound like he's going to be racing this weekend in Charlotte. Coca-Cola 600, I believe, is this weekend. And racing is a complete back burner issue when you're talking about his family putting out a statement saying that there is a serious illness here and he's been hospitalized. So best wishes going out to Kyle Busch. As we learn more, keep an eye on our YouTube channel, SportsWrap Shorts, on TikTok and Instagram as well. With SportsWrap Shorts, we will report anything new to update that situation. All right, that is big story number 3. Let's get to the NBA. Sam Yarnell will be here on the other side. What did he make of the Thunder Spurs Game 2? We'll talk about the Knicks and the Cavaliers, preview Game 2 there as well. We're coming back. Welcome back to the show. I've had my say in the big story. Feels like forever since I saw this guy. Sam Yarnell, ladies and gentlemen, the one and only. Lot to talk about with him. Aaron Rodgers, we'll get to that coming up in 10 minutes, but let's talk about the NBA. Well, the postseason has officially started now, it feels like, Sam. I know that's probably how you feel, because the first couple of rounds were useless to you. So here we are, conference finals, and it just fit, man, give me best of like 15 when it comes to the Spurs and Thunder. I will watch this all day long. As Captain America says, I could do this all day long. They are fantastic to watch play against each other. Now, our friend Kurt Heelan feels like this is the de facto NBA Finals. I do not feel that way. I don't feel that way, Sam. Because if the Knicks play the Spurs, I think the Knicks can beat the Spurs. I don't think the Knicks can beat the Thunder. But, you know, it's funny. In losses for both of these teams in the first 2 games, Sam, I could find positives and reasons for both teams to go walking out of the arena both nights saying, we're going to be fine. You know, the Thunder in Game 1, SGA played terrible. Nobody other than Caruso really gave him anything off the bench. They struggled in that game, and they still, lost in double overtime. Last night, same thing for the Spurs, who are playing without De'Aaron Fox. Now they lose Dylan Harper to a hamstring injury, and we're going to have to see how that develops. And they still, with, 4 or 5 minutes in that game, were very much within striking distance. So for me, I find positives for both these teams as they get ready to go play Game 3 in San Antonio.
So I got to start with a story, Jason, because as you alluded to, right, I'm not one to get very excited about the 2026 NBA. Have been all season. I've been telling you all season, nothing's going to matter. Like Kurt said, I believe I actually think I fall somewhere in the middle of you two. I don't think that I think that there's less than a 25% chance, but more than a 0% chance that we don't have a series at all in the NBA finals. I think it's somewhere more like a 12.5% chance we get anything that's has any semblance of a competitive series in the NBA finals. But yeah, de facto NBA finals. I'm with you, and with Kurt, I should say, in terms of that Western Conference final. It's so funny though, because as unexcitable as I am about basketball, Jason, and, you know, the show's been off for a few days at this point. And you and I are texting Tuesday night as the Knicks and Cavs are playing in game one. And you're sitting there on your airplane in your, you know, tube of recycled farts watching the Knicks win. And I'm sitting there thinking to myself, man, I can't wait to talk about the NBA tomorrow. Man, I cannot wait to talk about the NBA tomorrow. And then Wednesday comes. And as all of you know, I'm not on the show on Wednesdays. But Wednesday morning comes and I set my alarm and I woke up bright and early. And I got in the studio and I was just waiting for Jason Page to send me that text. I was just waiting until eventually I realized, you're such an idiot, Sam. It's Wednesday. You're not on the show today. You have no reason to be able to talk about the NBA today. And that made me a little bit upset. I'm not going to lie. To these games,
should have texted. We would have found a way to fit you in. Get in where you fit in.
And it wasn't until after our window that I realized, wow, it's not that he never showed up. It's that you were never supposed to be on the show today. That was literally a thought that had to run through my head yesterday.
That's great.
To the Western Conference Finals. And man, speaking of the Eastern Conference Finals, it's like watching two different sports. That is my reaction through one game of the Eastern Conference Finals and two games of the Western Conference Finals. Between what Wemby did in game one and how those teams went back and forth in game two, and what we saw with James Harden, I mean, throwing up all over himself isn't even enough to explain what James Harden did in game one for the Cleveland Cavaliers. They would have been better off holding the ball the entire third and fourth quarter. They would have won the game if they held the ball and let the shot clock run out, but they didn't. They just let James Harden play defense, and that is the worst mistake you can make in an NBA basketball game. So yeah, it's like watching two different sports. I land somewhere between you and Kurt in that I do think that there's about an 89% chance whoever wins the Western Conference Finals is going to win the NBA championship.
I'm anxious to see, because it's going to be the Knicks coming out of the East. I am anxious to see how the Knicks match up against the Spurs if it winds up being that way. I do think the Knicks have a more than 0% chance to beat the Spurs, as you would say. And frankly, I would be fascinated to see what the odds are. I wonder if those odds are available anywhere, if there's prospective odds on what that series would look like. I'm sure you could probably find it somewhere in in all of your stuff. But, you know, look, I'll also say this about the game last night while you look that up. Isaiah Hartenstein got away with basically assaulting Victor Wembanyama for 48 minutes last night. And if I'm Mitch Johnson, I am screaming mad at the officials after that game. And I got to go to bat for my big man because he got basically molested for, you know, the better part of that game by Hartenstein last night. And the officials let it happen. That was a problem for me. Did you find it?
There's no actual number on what it is, but the Knicks are minus 450 to make the finals, and then they're plus 430 to win the finals. Okay. So by a little bit of deductive reasoning, you're going to get somewhere between 6 and 8 to 1 on the Knicks to win the finals.
All right, talk about the Cavaliers then, Sam, because you know if you're a Cavaliers fan, you're trying to find the positives coming out of game one, and I guess the positive is you did outplay the Knicks for, you know, basically 42 minutes of that basketball game before throwing up all over yourself late in it. Conversely, you know the Knicks aren't going to come out as flat as they did, essentially, for the first 42 minutes of game one. I'm trying to find a positive that doesn't have Kenny Atkinson getting fired at the end of this series for his management of game one. I can't find it right now. I feel like the Knicks win this series in 5. I don't think gentlemen sweep. I don't think they go up 3-0, but I could see them winning in 5.
I got a positive spin zone for you.
Right.
Here's something that Cavs fans could look forward to. That game one disaster class was so bad and so embarrassing, not only for the city of Cleveland and that great organization that is the Cleveland Cavaliers, it was so embarrassing for the sport of basketball. It feels like, in my mind at least, there is a real chance that Adam Silver steps in and says, we're 3 games in. The Knicks have won all 3 of these games. Just go home, Cleveland. Knicks can win this in 3. And that would be good for Cavs fans because they wouldn't have to suffer then through game 4. That, to me, is a positive that we could take away from that absolute embarrassment they had in game 1. Other than that, Jason, I don't know. The Cavs season is over. They had to win that game to have a shot in this series, and they blew it more than any team's blown a single game in this entire playoffs.
Hold on. Kenny Atkinson just took one of those timeouts. We're coming back. Aaron Rodgers makes his future abundantly clear. Did he? We're coming back. Dennis Bernstein of the fourthperiod.com and SiriusXM NHL Radio joins us in 10 minutes. Get his thoughts on the conference finals. I told you when they were 9-1 to go run and place your bets on the Golden Knights to win the Stanley Cup. Didn't listen to me. Now they're up 1-0 on the Lanch. Can we call them the Lanch? Am I the only one that calls them the Lanch? Maybe.
No one calls them the Lanch.
Yeah.
Avs, fine.
Yeah,
Lanch,
I call them
no.
the Lanch. Sam Yarnell. The Golden Knights up 1-0 in that series. We get Dennis's thoughts on that coming up in a few minutes. So, and sorry about your Sabres, by the way. My condolences. It was a great season, great run. They'll be back next year. Better, bigger, and better things to come for Buffalo Sabres hockey. Sam Yarnell.
I hope so.
Yeah.
I hope so.
I know.
Yeah,
it hurts.
I mean, a Buffalo sports fan always knows heartbreak like nothing else, right? Nothing like a Game 7 overtime to send you home for the first time in 15 plus years.
Yeah, it's true. Hang in there, pal. So Aaron Rodgers surprised us all yesterday after we had already finished putting the show to bed.
Wait, he's still around?
Yeah, he's still around, 42. 22 in the league. Aaron Rodgers announcing that next season will be his last, Sam Yarnell. The 2026 season will be his last. He seemed pretty definitive in it. Seemed pretty comfortable with it. I've already made it clear how I feel about this entire situation, that, the Steelers are basically this, hamster wheel of mediocrity. They're essentially doing the same thing we're watching in another sport with the Warriors and sort of what they're doing, and just trying to run it back with different variations of the same thing. And in this case, it's Aaron Rodgers coming back for one more year. Instead of taking the Band-Aid off and telling your fans, you know what, there's going to be pain for a couple of years here. We're going to have to rebuild this thing. Wow. We know you guys are smart, and we're going to try and rebuild it. Instead, they're going to run it back next year. They're going to be a 9 or a 10 win team again, maybe be a wild card team. And regardless of whether it's Mike Tomlin or Mike McCarthy, the result will be the same, Sam.
Holy crap. You just blew my mind a little bit with the Golden State Warriors thing. You just blew my mind a little bit when you make the Golden State Warriors comparison. Because, obviously outside of the rings, right, the one thing that matters to it all, and when you look at the comparison, it makes sense why Golden State did it. You do these kinds of things in basketball, it doesn't affect your Hall of Fame resume. You do these kinds of things in football, it does affect your Hall of Fame resume. And no former members of the Aaron Rodgers Packers seem to care or accept that. But you're exactly right, Jason. You can draw the comparisons player to player. Devontae Adams is Klay Thompson. Sorry about it if any of that offends anyone. Devontae Adams is literally the Klay Thompson of the National Football League. Made somebody he played with exponentially better during their time together. He left and they were somehow both worse. It's crazy. Klay Thompson is Devontae Adams. I guess it's a real stretch you got to make to say Aaron Rodgers is Steph Curry, because Steph Curry was actually the best at one thing. Like, you can point to one aspect of the sport and say Steph Curry is the best of all time to do that. You can do that with absolutely nothing regarding Aaron Rodgers. There have been quarterbacks who throw better deep balls. There have been quarterbacks who are more accurate, and there have been quarterbacks who have thrown for more yards and touchdowns. Like, Aaron Rodgers doesn't quite fit the bill there. Fine. David Bakhtiari, I'm really sorry that I have to do this to you. You're Draymond Green. You refuse to leave even when the team needs you to, despite all these injuries and you providing absolutely nothing to your employer. David Bakhtiari, you are Draymond Green at this point. It's as simple as that. That is such an apt comparison, Jason. It really is a little bit mind-boggling. I'm not going to give too much time to this whole very stupid Aaron Rodgers is finally calling it one last ride. I do think it may be it's going to compete, definitely, for the stupidest narrative in the NFL this year. And that's a really hard award to win, people. Like, year in and year out, that is a very hard award to win. And we're potentially looking at Aaron Rodgers three-peating in that award. Elsewhere, I do think we all should note there are starting quarterback passing yard total lines out for the season. Aaron Rodgers has the second lowest season yards total among all quarterbacks listed, and that includes guys who aren't even supposed to start their season for their teams, like Fernando Mendoza. The only quarterback who has a lower prop than Aaron Rodgers right now, Bryce Young. Woof.
What? Can I be contrarian for one moment?
Please.
All right. I'll be contrarian for one moment. And this is me being a contrarian just for the sake of being a contrarian. Because we saw Aaron Rodgers last year. He had happy feet in the pocket. He was getting rid of the football before he got hit. He didn't want to suffer that one last hit that turns out the lights. I will play contrarian and say, knowing that it's the final season, and he just goes all out, and he is willing to take those hits, and he's scrambling, and he's Aaron Rodgers of even 6 years ago, not 15 years ago, but 6 years ago, and able to do some things that maybe, just maybe, things are a little bit different from him from an offensive standpoint. I can't speak to how it all pans out for the team as a whole, but maybe. That's the one argument that I can make. And that maybe being reunited with Mike McCarthy for this last run, the one guy he won a Super Bowl with, just maybe there could be something different. Again, our friends watching on Sportsnet Pittsburgh, I'm trying to give you something here. It's an olive branch from me. Don't snap it in half. I'm trying to give you something here because otherwise I'm stuck back at my default position, which is the Steelers as an organization unwilling to rebuild, and it's going to be a longer rebuild as a result.
Yeah, you hit the nail on the head there at the end. That's exactly the problem. I'm sorry, Steelers fans watching the show. Your ownership group refuses to have a season where they win 4 games, and that's going to prevent them from ever having a season again where they win 14 games. It's as simple as that at this point. You're going to roll out Jeremy Bernard as your third receiver on opening day. Like Jeremy Bernard was great at Alabama. He's not a wide receiver 3 in the NFL week 1. You brought in Mike McCarthy, who's an offensive coach, when the defense is the sticking point of that team. All the best players are on the defense. It's utter confusion going on in Pittsburgh, Jason. It's a complete and total mess.
And again, the one question I asked yesterday in the SportsWrap short I made is, if you are Aaron Rodgers and you've got one season left to play, it's like the death row meal question that I like to ask people.
It's a good point.
If you've got a death row meal, you're not getting McDonald's unless you're a real diehard McDonald's fan. You're going to get, the steak, the filet mignon, the mashed potatoes, all that stuff. You're Aaron Rodgers, and it's like if somebody said this is your death row meal, and you chose Sonic. Like I don't get it. It doesn't make sense to me. By the way, win total on FanDuel, 7.5 wins is the number over on FanDuel, and it's juiced to the over right now, -135. Plus 115 for under 7.5 wins.
I'd play it, and I don't even have their schedule right in front of me.
And I still think it's over because I think they probably win 9 games. Because that's sort of where we are. Dennis Bernstein joins us next. Welcome back to the show. NHL Stanley Cup playoffs, conference finals. We had them get started last night out in the West. Listen, I said a week ago that the Vegas Golden Knights, who were going off at like 10-1 to win the Stanley Cup, was the bet to make right now. Not because I think they're going to win the Stanley Cup, but it's the best value you could get. Beat the Avalanche last night. Let's bring in Dennis Bernstein, the fourthperiod.com, SiriusXM, NHL Radio. Does a great job always. What jumped off the page for you from game one in this Golden Knights win?
Shows how invaluable Cale Makar is to the Colorado Avalanche. That's a huge part that's missing for them. Vegas played the road game they had to play, Jason. Like, they were effective on the power play. They controlled play. They got out to an early lead. They won the special teams battle. They fended off a late rush. It was a really, really nice win. But the Makar missing changed the entire formula for Colorado. Their zone exits weren't as clean. There wasn't secondary pressure with respect to the blue line. It's a major, major injury. But you know what? Vegas has injuries too. Mark Stone's a very important player, but that's a classic road win for a team that's very experienced on the road. And now Colorado's in trouble. They have to win game 2 at this point in time, but that's a nice win. Carter Hart was the story. A lot of saves, and it's a different team. You know, when you talk about Vegas and the way they struggled all season, add Carter Hart, who's very effective in net, and add William Karlsson, who puts Mitch Marner back on the wing. This is a deep, dangerous team right now.
Now that we've had enough of a sampling of Vegas under John Tortorella, what is, if there's any one thing that stands out to you in terms of how this team looked under Cassidy versus how they look under Tortorella, what is it to you?
Well, it's funny how a coach gets better when a goalie makes saves. And it's as simple as that. Aiden Hill had a subpar season. Pierre Schmidt wasn't the answer. Now, they have been more aggressive. I think it was an attitude change. And here, the reality is that Bruce Cassidy wears on players. He does. And after a while, the message gets lost and the players don't play as hard. And I think that's what happened. And so Torts got their attention, and certainly the whole team got their attention. When you fire a guy who won a cup in that city with a couple of weeks left in the season, you want to get your team's attention. They got the attention. They're back on board. They're a little bit more aggressive with respect to their forecheck. But again, I think it's just the fact that a healthy William Karlsson really helps out their spine at center. And they're getting saves from Carter Hart. So I don't think there's been that much adjustments. And Jason, let's be real. You put a coach in there with 2 weeks to go in the season. You don't have any practice time to put in new systems or change anything drastically. So it's about this team is executing better and they're a healthier team.
The fine and the loss of a draft pick for not meeting with the media after Game 6, does it seem excessive to you?
No, because they've been warned before. And they want to do it. And plus, like in the moment, the context of, look, if they had lost that game in overtime and the series was over, that's fine. They won, Jason. They won the game. They won the series. Like, oh, the bus is leaving in 10 minutes. For what? You're not playing for another week. It was the wrong thing to do. And it's also Vegas, which likes to do it. So they've been warned before. And I don't know how many times before, but that's not how you grow the game. That's the opposite of what happened in the Olympics when Jack Hughes scored. You know, we see all these great viewership numbers for the NHL and the playoffs. Like, it's because of Jack Hughes and the Olympic team. Well, you know, when you don't come out and talk afterwards and you don't let players talk and you don't open the room, that's the negative effect. That's just something that you don't want to happen. You don't want to see, because other teams will say, hey, if they do it, we could do it. This also, like, it punishes the team for repeated violations, and it sends a signal to the other 31 teams. Don't try this stuff.
Dennis, Montreal advances to the conference finals out in the East with the Game 7 overtime win against Buffalo. Great season for Buffalo, by the way. You know, hopefully great things in their future after such a long time in the hockey wilderness. Give me the argument for Montreal in this series against Carolina, who has been so good so far.
I think it's magic against a machine. And if you like magic tricks, I think you would bet on Montreal. I just don't know how much they're going to have left in the tank, Jason. 2 tough 7-game series, 2 Game 7 wins on the road. Here's the thing. Busch is going to have to stand on his head. Their special teams will have to be exceptional because at 5-on-5 play, and granted, the people that are backing the Habs in this series look at the regular season and say, hey, the Habs won all 3 games. Different game now, Jason. You watch Carolina play in the playoffs. You watch those 8 games that they won. They're 8-0. Now, granted, Ottawa and Philadelphia, it's not murderer's
row. It's not murderer's row.
It's not murderer's row. So I would say special teams, goaltending, and a little bit more magic, and they'll have to play better at home. It's just a very difficult ask because there is discrepancy between the talent on Carolina and talent in Montreal.
We've talked about layoffs this week when it comes to the NBA. The Knicks had time off. If they woke up in the middle of the fourth quarter,
Sure.
the Thunder dropped game one. Do you think this layoff, does Montreal have to steal game one in this series? And will that layoff matter for Carolina?
Yeah, I think it'll probably matter early, probably the first half of the game. If they're going to have rust. I don't care how many practices you can have with respect to Rod Brindamore and his team. It's not game competition, and it's not Stanley Cup playoff competition. So I assume there'll be some rust, time to get going. Do they have to steal this one? No, they have to steal one of the two. And I expect. Look, I think the Habs will be in a spot to steal games. Because these are going to be low-scoring games, Jason. These are going to be 3-2 games. If the over-under is 5.5, I'm playing it under until these teams go over because I just don't see a ton of offense at 5-on-5. So while the Habs don't have to steal this one, to your point, it's a fair point. If you're going to steal one, it's the team that hasn't played for 2 weeks that you hope that they're just a little too rusty and no continuity in their offense.
Dennis Bernstein, thefourthperiod.com, SiriusXM, NHL Radio. Always appreciate you, my friend. We'll catch up with you next week.
Likewise, JP, thanks for the time.
We're coming back with more Sports Wrap on this Thursday. Don't go anywhere. We wrap it up with some odds and ends coming up 10 minutes from now. All right, Sam Yarnell. Water is wet, and the Chiefs have somebody in legal trouble. It's the same guy that's been in legal trouble for them, Shohei Rice. He's going to have to do 30 days in jail. I briefly touched on this yesterday, but I wanted to allow you to weigh in. I just wonder at what point as an organization, if you're Kansas City, you just decide to say, you know what, this isn't worth it. Juice isn't worth the squeeze. The headache isn't worth it. But apparently they haven't reached that point yet. He's got to have surgery, or he had surgery on his knee. He's going to miss a lot of the offseason anyway, so it's not like he's missing any significant time. He'll just be able to work on his physique in jail, get buff. That's what I would do if I was in jail for 30 days. I told people the story yesterday. I did 10 hours in a jail cell once, and I did 10 hours in a jail cell.
The whitest possible sentence that could come out of your mouth, man. The whitest possible sentence that could come out of your mouth.
Biggest misunderstanding. It wasn't anything. I didn't do anything crazy. I'm not on any registry or anything. You're all safe. But I had 10 hours in a jail cell, and I said if I had to do any sort of hard time, it'd be a wrap. It'd be an Epstein for me. I'd be, and I mean the end of Epstein, not all the other
Goes
stuff.
off the rails.
Yeah. But I mean, for Shohei Rice, maybe this is something that turns him around. 30 days in jail, maybe that's something that gets the message through to him. Because 30 days doesn't seem like a lot to you and me, but it's like when somebody says somebody's having minor surgery. Yeah, it's minor surgery. It's still surgery, and it's not on you. 30 days in jail might turn him around a little bit.
No? Yeah, this is this is crazy. Shohei Rice should not be playing in the National Football League. I don't care whether it turns him around or not. There's a guy who cannot seem to keep his nose out of trouble. And listen, I know Matt Verderame comes on the show a lot. Mm-hmm. The Kansas City Chiefs are an organization that employs these kinds of people. They're known for it. They're known in league circles for it. Someone gets caught up doing something in the league, and people who actually work in football say, well, he'll be on the Chiefs in a couple of months. This is just, the Chiefs are now becoming synonymous with, bad people. I'm sorry. The Chiefs are becoming synonymous with the worst of the worst players in terms of human beings in the National Football League. And that's fine if you're Clark Hunt and you don't care because, quite frankly, you won a couple of rings a few years ago and your team's been slipping out of relevancy ever since. But it doesn't matter that you're just going to keep giving millions and millions and millions and millions of dollars to guys who are spending months of the offseason in jail. This is the craziest thing to me. This is the only profession in the world, the only profession in the world where you can leave your job for a month so that you can go serve time in a penitentiary and come back and have nothing act like it happened, have complete and total job security, is the National freaking Football League, man. It's gotten so ridiculous to this point, and Rashee Rice is just the latest example of a Kansas City Chief who can't keep his head screwed on straight and ends up in off-season prison.
In other news, Fernando Mendoza is apparently impressing his staff over there in Las Vegas, or I should say over here, because we are based in Las Vegas. I know, over there. Well, it's over there in Henderson, which is only about like 20 minutes from where I am. But you won't see me out there at Raiders camp. So, I mean, you've got Fernando Mendoza, who's working out. Kirk Cousins, it sounds like, is going to be the week 1 starter for the Raiders, according to Clint Kubiak. And, you sort of look at, the direction that the Raiders are doing this. They want to do it right when it comes to Mendoza. There's no reason to throw him into the fire week 1. They've got him practicing with the rookies and taking reps with the rookies, and they're letting Kirk Cousins sort of do his thing on the side. I still ask the question, not that I think this will happen, because I don't think the roster is necessarily at that point yet. What if they're winning games with Kirk Cousins? Is it conceivable that Mendoza doesn't really get an opportunity at some point this year? Or do they just wait for that first opportunity where Cousins has a bad game, they get blown out, the fan base is getting restless, and they use that as the opportunity to get Mendoza in? Over under on how many games Kirk Cousins starts before Fernando Mendoza is the starter, Sam Yarnell?
Oh, that's tough. Yeah, that's a tougher question.
It is.
I like you and comfortable saying I think he's going to start week 1, but the reports are like they're loving Mendoza, and Mendoza's growing the way they need him to. I don't know, Jason. I think it's like 3.5. But what I will say about Las Vegas, and this is one where, like, I know there have been a couple of teams that have done this in the past. I mean, even if you want to draw it out over like the past 10 years, there have been a few teams who have done this with this kind of situation where, you have a journeyman quarterback who's had some recent success in the NFL, but also some question marks around him recently, and then a highly touted draft prospect coming in. The one that comes straight to my mind is actually Josh Allen in his rookie year. Came in behind Tyrod Taylor and was not the Bills starter originally, week 1. I think Tyrod Taylor started the first 4 or 5 games of that season, Jason. I could see the same kind of thing happening here, but I think that the Raiders have been very, very, very careful about maintaining that relationship between those two guys so that when one does take over for the other, when Fernando does take over for Kirk, I don't think it's going to create any sort of rift in the locker room. I think that this, as stupid as it sounds to say in the National Football League, I think the Raiders this year are going to hold hands and sing Ring Around the Rosies more than any team.
Raiders start with the Dolphins in Vegas, then at the Chargers, at the Saints, home for the Chiefs. That's the first 4 games for them. Could they be 2-2 coming out of that? I think it's conceivable. We'll have to wait and see. And then the Patriots in week 5 for them. So that's what you got for the Raiders. You set the number at 3.5. I'll take the over.
I think I will too. I don't think he's going to start that Kansas City game.
Odds and Ends is next. Just about time to put the wraps on this baby for a Thursday. Tino Patino will be here for tomorrow's show as NASCAR resumes its normal scheduling. I think they're in Charlotte this week. Usually the thing behind me says where it is because we always get that information there. Hey, CJ Cup is going on. There you go. Couple of reminders before we go. Sports Wrap with Jason Page podcast. More and more people subscribing every day. Why don't you? The audio version of this show, Monday through Friday, mostly without the commercials in it, just a couple of small breaks in there. 45 minutes waiting for you each and every afternoon on your favorite podcasting source. Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube Podcasts, iHeartRadio, TuneIn, Odyssey, Amazon. Anywhere you get a podcast, you get a podcast, you get a podcast. Go and check that out today. Sports Wrap with Jason Page YouTube channel is the place to find all things Sports Wrap with Jason Page. The Monday through Friday TV version of the show, extended conversations, Sports Wrap shorts. These are 1 to 3 minute long videos, news breaks. We jump in with it. I didn't have the stomach to do one last night after the Spurs lost to the Thunder. I just wasn't in the mood, and Salt and Straw was waiting for me, and I needed a milkshake, so we didn't do one last night after the game ended. True story, Sam. So that's the story about why you didn't get one after the game last night. SportsWrap shorts available on our YouTube channel, also available on our TikTok, SportsWrap Jason Page, also on our Instagram by that very same name, SportsWrap Jason Page. And now, without any further delay, on this Thursday edition of the show, it's time for some odds and ends. Odds and ends, Sam Yarnell. What do you always say? The greatest ability is availability. Well, it's already a problem for Caitlin Clark. She misses last night's game with a back injury. Fever didn't need her. They beat the Fire 90-73. And there's a lot of people talking about what Caitlin Clark does and doesn't need to do this season. I saw Colin Coward, who's just become grumpy old man on the porch yelling at the clouds, who's just looking for any reason for people to sort of, get outraged about something he said, talking about the fact that, it's year 3, and it's no longer the cool thing to just watch Caitlin Clark. She needs to win a championship this year and all of this stuff. And I'm like, dude, Michael Jordan didn't win one until like his 6th or 7th season. Shut up. You're an idiot. The goals being set for her by others as opposed to what real basketball people know is kind of silly. Back injury, though. Sam, I get she has talent on that roster. They should compete for a championship this year. Conference final, well, they don't have a conference finals, but WNBA semifinals, NBA finals, WNBA finals appearance, fine. But to sit there and say that, sort of the shine is off of this thing now, and it's about, how much she wins, I just think it's I think it's a little overboard, my opinion.
I'm so glad that we're talking about this in relation to basketball as a whole, because it's important to more than just Caitlin Clark, but I'll start with Caitlin Clark. While she is great, after last season, there is room for this narrative to be born, right? When this comes 4 games into this season, there's room for this narrative to be born. Excluding this season, right? Because we're so early on into it, and we don't know what's going on with this injury and last night, and it messes the numbers up a lot. But if you just look at her first 2 seasons in the WNBA, Caitlin Clark missed almost 40% of her team's games. Mm-hmm. She missed 37.5% of her team's games. She missed more than, on average, 1 in every 3 Fever games since she was drafted there. That's not acceptable. And I'm sorry that I have to do this, especially coming off of last night, but I have to. The same has to be said about Victor Wembanyama. Because I brought this up to somebody in a prominent figure in the sports media space yesterday, and I said, yeah, Wemby's great, and the Western Conference Finals is awesome, and it's, the de facto NBA Finals, yada, yada, yada. But the fact of the matter is, with Victor Wembanyama, if we want to talk about him winning 4 straight Defensive Player of the Years, contending for the MVP next year, he's going to have to stay on the floor. Victor Wembanyama, since the Spurs drafted him, has missed on average 1 in every 4 Spurs games. That is not acceptable for the guy who's supposed to be the best player in the world, just like Caitlin Clark missing more than every 1 in 3 Fever games since she was drafted. Cannot be acceptable for these two to be considered the best young players in their sports. We have to draw the line somewhere with basketball. We can't let these players play half the season and still consider them one of the best in their sports. You're missing more than 25% when we're talking about Wemby or Caitlin Clark. You're missing more than 25% of your team's games since you joined the team. You shouldn't even be considered a member of the team at that point.
Fever fans, send your correspondences to Sam Yarnell. Shohei Ohtani, a home run, 5 scoreless last night, Sam, as he continues to roll for the Dodgers. Yeah, come on, wax poetic about Shohei.
This is getting crazy.
25
Jason.
seconds to do it.
I mean, you and I talked a couple of weeks ago. I was worried about the hitting because he was showing us this year he's paying more attention to the pitching. And guess what? The hitting still came around. and he's still pitching with his brain out of his skull, and now he's hitting the lights out of the ball. This is crazy to watch. This could legitimately be one of the best single player, single seasons we've seen in baseball history. And I don't think that's an exaggeration at this point.
His 8th home run of the season last night. He's got the batting average up to 272. It wasn't the 230s the last time we addressed his batting average.
What's the ERA?
The ERA is now .73.
He's hitting almost 300, and he's got an ERA under 1. What is going on?
He is Steve Nebraska. It's going to do it for us. Does it? We'll see you all later.